So everybody wants to have pure and positive thoughts. Yes, we all want a mind that is constantly capable of pure and positive thoughts. And today Baba gives a very interesting connection between being merciful and having pure and positive thoughts. And just like, you cannot move one step ahead if you don't lift, yourself from the last step. So when you lift your one leg, you can put it, ahead of you and move ahead. So Baba says that an act of mercy is to let go of anybody's weakness. So even if someone is saying, doing, or listening to something wrong due to influence of their sanskars, yes, because one thing we have understood is 63 births every soul has spent in Ravan Rajya. And because of that, people have sanskars, weak sanskars. The blueprint is positive, pure sanskars, but then the other thing is also very true. The weak sanskars are also a reality right now. So when you see somebody saying, doing, or speaking, or listening to something that is, not okay, not right, because of the influence of their sanskars, then what is your duty? Is it your duty to keep that wrong in your awareness and create the ego that they are wrong and I am right? Yes, because the one method through which most people are feeding their ego is when they see somebody or hear somebody, do something wrong, then what they do is they keep that wrong in their awareness and then they keep singing that song, they are wrong, I am right. And in order to be right, you don't have to really do anything right, but just, keep singing this song because they are wrong, I am right. Because they are doing something wrong and I am not doing that wrong, so I am right. But how will you be right? When you do something right, not when you are not doing what the other person is doing wrong. So that is a very, very Kali-yugi way of feeding your ego. And Baba says, you don't do that. So we children, we don't need to feed our ego by keeping somebody's weakness or wrong acts or wrong words, or even if somebody is listening to something wrong, then we have this false ego that they are bad people listening to something wrong. And what am I? Thinking that they are bad people listening to something wrong. So Baba says, understand this, and what is your duty? Your duty is to transform. We are receiving sustenance from the Almighty Baba, and Baba is transforming us. And what is Baba's act of transformation? So Baba never looks at our weaknesses. Baba knows, yes, doesn't Baba know how many weaknesses we have? Or what we do wrong in a day? Baba knows. But then Baba never looks at our weaknesses. Baba is always sustaining me with good wishes and pure feelings. And that is what transforms me. So you just like, you need water to finish the fire. You cannot finish the fire with fire. Similarly, good wishes and pure feelings are needed to transform weaknesses. And Baba gives us that. And Baba says, when you see somebody's weakness, acts of weakness, or they are listening to something wrong, or they are doing something wrong, or saying something wrong, just transform them by giving them good wishes and good feelings. Don't hold their weakness in your awareness. Just remember who you are and give them good wishes and good feelings and help them transform. So this is an act of mercy. And Baba says, when you remember whose child you are, and when you remember that your quality is mercy and your task is to be merciful, then your own mind is always full of good thoughts, pure thoughts, and positive thoughts. Because whatever you create for others, that is something that you're creating in your own mind space. So your mind space gets flooded with that quality. So Baba says that any soul who listens to Baba's Srimad and adopts this quality of mercy, they are able to have a pure and peaceful mind, a mind that has pure and positive thoughts always. So this is one thing. And then Baba says, there is another thing where somebody is describing somebody's weakness to you. Yes, and what do you do in that? So, I saw one very interesting illustration one time, and there is a series of matchsticks, and then they're all, together. And then one person lights the first stick, and then all of them catch fire. And then in another picture, what happened is, there is a series of matchsticks, but then one stick just removes itself. And then there is a fire, and 3, 4, they catch fire, but then the fifth one has removed itself, so the fire doesn't spread to the others. And this picture I like a lot because, this tells us about the power of one stick. You have the power to save yourself and save everyone else. And you see, Baba today uses a very interesting expression, a rosary of wasteful matters. We create a rosary of wasteful matters when one listens to something wasteful. So, when you describe somebody's weakness, it is wasteful. It is not serving you or them in any way. So Baba says, when somebody is performing this act which is very wasteful, and you listen to it with a lot of interest, and then if you are interested in listening to it, you will also be interested in spreading it. And then you will just take that and spread it to others. And Baba says, if you choose to be that matchstick who removes itself, then what will you do? When you listen to something wasteful, when somebody is describing somebody's weakness, even if it's true, I'm not talking about, or Baba is not talking about instances where it is false. But even when it is true, it is still wasteful, right? So even if somebody is describing a weakness of somebody which is true, still it is wasteful and unkind of you to to describe that. And if you describe somebody's weakness, even if it's true, that's not a spiritual act. So your task as a child of God, your task is to help them overcome their weakness. Your task is not to spread that weakness. Yes, and Baba often gives us a very good example. If you have a little brother or sister at home, what would you do? Would you describe their weakness and share it and on loudspeaker to the whole world? No, you would take them in a corner and tell them you need to change this. And if they don't, then you start worrying about how to change that. So Baba says that it is not your duty as a soul, because this is a spiritual family, and we do not describe anybody's weakness even if it's true. And Baba says that when you see somebody doing that, then what do? You have good wishes for both, because the one who is describing it is also a weak soul, and the one whose weaknesses is being discussed is also a weak soul. So you give good wishes to both and then save yourself from it. And by saving yourself, you are also breaking the chain. Yes, you're breaking the chain of spreading it. So Baba says, do not become somebody who creates this rosary of wasteful matters. And only by choosing these things, we can have a heart and a mind full of pure and positive thoughts. So pure and positive thoughts come from acts of mercy, acts of letting go of other people's weaknesses, acts of letting go of your own past. Even if somebody did something to you or said something to you in the past, let go of that and give that soul good wishes. And one thing to underline in this knowledge that Baba gives today is that you cannot move from a negative feeling to a neutral feeling. There is nothing like a neutral feeling. Sometimes people say, I don't have any feelings for somebody. No. You will either have a negative feeling or a positive feeling. So that is why Baba says, choose to have good wishes for those who did wrong to you. Because only then can you keep your heart clean. So, take that good wish from Baba. Learn how to be merciful. Draw that quality of mercy. Draw that quality of, having the capacity to have good wishes for those who wronged you in the past or those who are doing wrong in the present. And then with that, giving of good wishes, then you can free yourself. Because you cannot free yourself by, if you keep struggling with yourself, don't think about them, that's not going to go away. You have to have the big heart to transform your negative feelings into feelings of, spiritual love and good wishes and pure feelings. So this is what Baba says today. And then Baba today also gives us a lot of clarity about the situation when somebody says that, they are troubling me and what should I do? So, on this path of Raj Yoga, you meet many hindrances and obstacles. and then somebody will stop you from attending class, somebody would stop you from getting up at Amrit Vela, somebody would stop you from doing seva, people will be very mad at you when you do seva. So all of that thing will happen. But then there are children who ask Baba or ask the Nimit that this is what's happening, what should I do? And then the answer is, you are the creator of your own destiny. You are your own best friend and own enemy, own worst enemy. So you do what you like. You can do whatever you want, because when somebody asks such a question, that means they have kept the option open that when somebody is disturbing me in my Swa-Purusharth or Seva, then I have the option to not do that and step back. Yes, but if somebody recognizes that I am doing something for my own fortune, for creating my own fortune, and if I am taking a step on Srimad that is creating my own fortune, then you would never ask anybody else whether I should create my fortune or not. You will do that despite all obstacles. Yes, and nobody will tell you, that you should, you could ask that this is the obstacle and what is the yukti I could use, or what is the way out. But if you ask what should I do, whether I should proceed or not, that's not a question. Because if you're asking that, that means you've kept that option open, that in the face of this obstacle, it is, I can take a step back. I can retrace my steps and I can stop this journey. So this is why you're asking this question. And when somebody asks this question, then the simple answer that Baba gives is, you are the master of your destiny, do whatever you want. And I'm not telling you anything. And Baba tells us something very important today. Baba says, you are not an animal that somebody can force you. Yes. Do you know that you are not an animal and nobody can force you? How many of you know that nobody can force you? Yes. There is a very deep-seated conditioning, and especially in souls in female bodies, that somebody can force you. And the law says, if you think they can, they can. Yes, so the thing is, do you think somebody can force you? Or do you know that you are a soul and nobody can force you? You are a soul, you are independent, you are not even the body. Your own sanskars also can't force you, your body can't force you, let alone anybody outside having the power to force you. You give that power to somebody by believing that somebody can force you. And if you take away that power by knowing that nobody can force you, then nobody can force you. Yes, people can make their own choices. People can make their own choices. They may not cooperate with you, they may leave you, they may abuse you, but nobody can force you. You can still do your own thing. Yes, even if you are at gunpoint, you can choose to be forced or die. It's not that you don't have a choice. Even at gunpoint, you have a choice. You can choose to leave the body or you can choose to be forced. But again, when you say somebody forced me, it is a choice you made. Do you understand that? So Baba says you are not an animal, nobody can force you. And if you know that, and I'm telling you from experience, from observation, from this, from the journey that I've seen on this path, if you are really convinced, if you really know that nobody can force you, you will never even require to say you can't force me. Many a times people say, you can't force me, but what they believe is they can be forced. And the other person, despite you saying you can't force me, they very well know they can force you, because that is your belief system. But if you are that soul who knows nobody can force you, then you don't even need to say it. The other person knows this person can't be forced. And you will have your way. And this is something that you should know. It's not about telling anybody. It's not about convincing anybody. It's about you. And when you believe that you can be forced, then you send out that vibrations, your body language tells somebody that this person can be forced. And Baba tells us, you are not an animal, you cannot be forced. And you are only forced by your own weakness. So, you are a weak soul, you are under force. If you are in your soul power, you can never be forced. And Baba says, and when somebody says, somebody is forcing me, these are my circumstances, this and that and the other, then Baba knows that the soul is weak. And then, there is no use giving directions to a weak soul. Why, Because when you give directions to a weak soul, they don't do it. And then what happens is, one thing is they are doing the wrong thing, so they incur a bondage, and then they are also disobeying Ishwariya directions, that also creates a burden. So that's why Baba would never give directions to somebody who says, what can I do in this situation? So this is a very important thing that Baba teaches us. And then Baba, today very beautifully, Baba describes how, Baba lifts us from the refuse bin and gives us refuge. And then Baba makes a Brahmin out of a Shudra, and by adopting us, and then how Baba changes a Shudra to a deity. And we will discuss that, but Baba speaks of something very important. Baba says that I lift you from the can of rubbish and I give you this Ishwariya Janam, this Brahmin life, but you have this habit of lying in that can of rubbish for 63 births. And then what happens is, you are still attracted to rubbish. Yes. And it's very interesting to see that. So being a deity is another story. So Baba says, you are not a deity right now. You are not in your elevated state right now. You are practicing to be. You are making effort to be. But it's not a lesser fortune to be a Brahmin. And when you're a Brahmin, there are some things which you get which are priceless. So a Brahmin gets Shuddh Bhojan. Yes, a Brahmin is capable of creating Shuddh Bhojan, cooking Shuddh Bhojan, offering bhog and eating. But if you still choose to eat Ashuddh Bhojan, then what would, so earlier we didn't have the intellect or the capacity to create Shuddh Bhojan. But now we have. But still, if you choose to eat the impure food, then it would be said that, even when you're lifted from that can of rubbish, you still like to go there and rot in that rubbish bin. And I'll give you one example. There's one brother, and he's in such a good position in this Brahmin life that his yugal is also a BK, and the yugal cooks food in Baba's remembrance. She's a very nice soul, good sevadhari, and she cooks in Baba's remembrance. And when he leaves for office, she prepares lunch box for him and gives him, and all that is, very good food, Baba's food in Baba's remembrance. But this brother, despite being a BK, he would eat from outside. He comes for the murli and everything, but still he would eat from outside. And it is very surprising. And, and we don't understand when this is discussed. I don't understand why is it so, but sanskars are such. And Baba says, I give you the choice to get up at Amrit Vela. I give you murli, I give you so much, good classes to listen to. And still if you, spend your time on social media, still if you listen to the rubbish of the world. So, people in the world, they don't have an option, do they? They don't have an option to listen to anything pure, purposeful, powerful. So they are doing that all the time. But we children who have this option and this jewels of knowledge, if we also do that, instead of churning on the jewels of knowledge, if you are watching a movie or listening to news or watching things on social media, then it would be said that these sanskars of 63 births of being in the rubbish bin are not, are attracting you. And then we have the option to stay in Baba's remembrance. But if we don't choose that, and you see, Brahmin life is a very blessed life. And there is one Mata, she always tells me one thing, and she has so much gratitude for it that she mentions it over and over again. And she says, Didi, everybody says get up in the morning, but nobody tells you get up in the morning and do what. And she said, I always like to get up in the morning, but I had nothing to do after that. And because I didn't have anything to do, I started reading the newspaper, and that made it worse. And when I came to Baba, I have such a good schedule now. I can do Amrit Vela, and then I can listen to the Murli, and then I can, prepare food. And this is a very good, from 4 to 8, Baba gives me things to do. And she said that, she always says that this is such a blessing. People in the world who get up early in the morning are also spoiling themselves by reading the newspaper, and people who get up late are also doing the same thing. But we have this Brahmin life when you get up and say good morning Baba, when you get up and do Amrit Vela. People in the world don't know how to do Amrit Vela. You know how to do Amrit Vela. You know how to remember Baba in Amrit Vela. You have a 1 hour murli after that in which you can listen to jewels of knowledge. People don't have access to these things. And Baba says, if you still choose to sleep, if you still choose to, not read the murli, not do Amrit Vela, then it's the rubbish of the old world that's attracting you. And there's one story about a fisherwoman. It's a story in Bhakti, and there was a fisherwoman, and so there was a king who got attracted to this fisherwoman, and he married her. And then he took her to the palace, and she lived there. and she had all the comforts that a queen is entitled to. And then, after some days, this fisherwoman, she started going into depression, and she was not feeling well all the time, mentally sick. And then this king, he started worrying, what is it that's lacking in this palace that my wife is going into depression? And then he inquired, and then the fisherwoman said, I miss the foul smell of fish. So I need to, smell that dirty smell of fish all around me. And if I don't smell that, I feel uncomfortable and I'm going into depression because of that. And then because of her health reasons, the king had to make a decision to leave his wife back into that foul smell of fishes. So this is a story, very profound story about, how sanskars, they deceive us. And Baba says, do not allow your sanskars to deceive you. Just churn in your mind what you've got and realize the importance of it, because you cannot feel anything if you don't think about it. This is a very interesting aspect about everything, that in order to feel something, to realize something, you have to think about it. And if you don't think about how fortunate you are as a Brahmin, then you will miss out on the realization that you're really fortunate. And Baba says, do not make that mistake. And today Baba talks about, how Baba comes in the early morning, in the dawn of this Srishti in Sangam Yuga, and adopts us and changes us from a Shudra to a Brahmin. And you see Baba, so Baba is today talking about the castes. And Baba talks about how we were a deity and then we change into a Kshatriya, and from that to a Vaishya to a Shudra, and now Baba adopts us and changes us to a Brahmin. And where does this come from, this whole thing about the caste? It comes from the Virat Roop. And in Bhakti there is a picture of the Virat Roop. And in that Virat Roop of Vishnu, they show this face as the deities, all the deities are emerging from the face, and then the hands are the Kshatriya, and all the weapons are in the hands, and then there's the stomach area which is the Vaishya, and then lower body is the Shudra. And Baba says that from the Shudra, then they don't show the story after that. But Baba says that you have this journey. You were a deity and then you became a Kshatriya and then a Vaishya and a Shudra. They are not four different castes. It is the same soul that changes its caste as you move along this journey. As you take birth and rebirth, you change from a deity to a Kshatriya to a Vaishya to a Shudra. And then this happens according to drama, but then when Baba comes, Baba changes us from a Shudra to a Brahmin, and to a Brahmin to a deity again, which is not shown in that Virat Roop. So we have a Virat Roop Chitra of our own in Brahma Kumaris, where we show the Kshatriya, Devta, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and then the Shiv Baba and the Brahmin, and then the deity. So in the crown we show that there is the Brahmin, Shiv Baba, Brahma Baba sitting and creating the deity. And Baba says that I am changing you from a Shudra to a Brahmin to a deity, and I adopt you. How do I change your caste from a Shudra to a Brahmin? So we are all Shudras. This is not about that worldly caste system, right? So Shudra means Shudra intellect. Now why is it called Shudra intellect? Because that intellect which can only think about the skin. So, only think about menial things. That's a Shudra intellect. And that intellect which is body conscious is a Shudra intellect. And then Baba adopts us. And Baba says, by adoption, I change your caste from a Shudra to a Brahmin. And when a child is adopted, then what happens is the child calls the one who adopts him Mama Baba. They become the parents. So Baba says, now when you realize that I am your parent, you are my children, and I am your Mata Pita, and then the child starts adopting the lifestyle and the thought process and the qualities of the parents. So when you start thinking and believing that I am like my Mama Baba, I am like my mother Brahma and father Shiv Baba, and you start adopting the qualities of your parents, then you start changing from a Shudra to a Brahmin. And then from a Brahmin to a deity also, Baba talks about at least 20 points today to pay attention to for becoming, for changing from a Brahmin to a deity. And I'll just give a very small list of those points. So first thing Baba says is, you want to be a deity, no devilish sanskars you should show. Then Baba says, you should serve this yajna with your bones, You should give your whole energy to this yajna which makes you elevated. Then Baba says, complete surrender. In bhakti also people surrender to Shri Krishna. Now Shri Baba has come, completely surrender yourself. Then Baba says, cook in the food of Baba's remembrance. Even in bhakti, people cook in God's remembrance. So cook food in Baba's remembrance. That is a very good aspect of seva. And then Baba says, do not have devilish sanskars. Create divine sanskars of food and drink, word and behavior. And Baba says about food and drink, never have any temptation towards food. That is an asuri sanskar, right? And then Baba says that, create divine virtues, become pure, do not have any attraction towards anybody. Yes, if you have attraction towards this old world, you cannot change into a deity. And the most important point is remember Baba. So when we pay attention to all of these, only then can we change from a Brahmin to a deity. And especially, if you divide this into 4 subjects, divine virtues, yoga, seva, and knowledge. This is what we have to pay attention to change from a Brahmin to a deity. Okay? Om Shanti.